The flashing lights appear behind her at 10:37 p.m. on a quiet highway outside Phoenix. Before the officer even reaches the driver's window, she is already apologizing for something she does not yet understand. Her voice shakes slightly, her hands tighten around the steering wheel, and in that moment, all she wants is to get home safely. She is 34 years old, an elementary school teacher. She stayed late after parent conferences, answered one last parent email from the parking lot, grabbed cold drive-through coffee for the ride home, and now she is alone on a dark stretch of highway, replaying tomorrow's responsibilities in her head. Then the lights appear behind her. Everything changes immediately. Her heart rate rises, her thoughts move fast. Stay calm, be respectful, don't make this worse. Most women recognize that feeling instantly, and that matters more than you think. From the officer's side, nighttime traffic stops are unpredictable. Officers are trained to assess behavior quickly, nervous talking, over-explaining, apologizing before hearing the reason for the stop. All of it shapes the interaction within seconds. That is the difference many women are never taught. There is a very important difference between being respectful and volunteering unnecessary information. But under stress, many women instinctively try to sound cooperative by filling the silence before they even know what is happening. That is exactly what she did. Before the officer finished his first sentence, she was already explaining where she had been, why she was exhausted, how long the school meetings lasted, and how she hoped she was not speeding because she honestly had not been watching the speedometer closely. And within less than 30 seconds, she unknowingly said something that completely changed how the stop unfolded. Not because she was rude, not because she was hiding something, because she made the mistake almost everyone makes when fear and pressure collide at the same time. The next thing the officer said changed the tone of the entire interaction, and most women have no idea that one simple sentence can trigger it so quickly. The officer stops beside her window and asks a question that sounds harmless enough. "Do you know why I pulled you over tonight?" And almost immediately she starts guessing. "Was I speeding? I might have been going a little fast. I'm sorry. I left work late and honestly my mind is just everywhere tonight." She believes she is helping the situation. Most women do. But this is where traffic stops quietly begin to change direction. The first mistake is admitting fault before you even understand what is happening. Many women apologize automatically because they are trying to lower tension fast. They want the interaction to stay calm, polite, and predictable. But sentences like, "I might have been speeding," or "I probably missed the sign," can create complications before the facts are even clear. And that changes everything. The second mistake is oversharing personal details to sound harmless. She explains the parent conferences, how exhausted she is, how she skipped dinner, how she still has 40 minutes left before she gets home. To her, it feels friendly and cooperative. But from the officer's perspective, the conversation is now expanding far beyond a simple traffic stop. That is the difference most women never see in the moment. Then the third mistake happens physically. Her hands move too quickly. Before the officer even asks, she reaches into her purse searching for paperwork. Registration papers slide between old receipts. A pen falls onto the passenger seat. Her breathing gets shorter. She keeps talking while digging through the glove compartment, trying to hurry because she does not want to appear difficult. And suddenly, what felt routine a moment ago no longer looks completely routine. That difference matters more than most women realize. Many women are raised to smooth over discomfort immediately, avoid conflict, stay agreeable, keep everyone calm. So during a nighttime stop, they instinctively focus on managing the officer's emotions instead of managing the interaction itself. And slowly, the stop becomes longer. The questions start widening. "Where exactly are you coming from tonight? Have you had anything to drink? Why were you distracted?" Now she feels the shift herself. What started as a simple pullover on a quiet Phoenix highway suddenly feels uncertain. Her chest tightens. She starts replaying every sentence she already said, wondering if she made things worse without meaning to. This is exactly the moment many women discover too late that they actually had far more control than they thought they did, both legally and personally. Because there are a few calm, simple sentences that can completely change the direction of a nighttime traffic stop. Calm, respectful, completely legal. And the first one is probably not what most women expect to hear. During a traffic stop in the United States, there are a few things drivers are generally legally required to provide: your driver's license, vehicle registration, proof of insurance, and basic identification compliance when requested lawfully. Those are the core responsibilities during an ordinary stop, but many women are genuinely surprised by what they are usually not required to do. You are generally not obligated to explain where you were an hour earlier. You are not usually required to discuss where you are going, who you are meeting, whether you live alone, why you were out late, or answer unrelated investigative questions that casually appear during conversation. And that distinction matters. As a woman in America, you can remain calm, respectful, and cooperative without volunteering every personal detail someone casually asks during a nighttime stop. Many officers speak conversationally on purpose because ordinary conversation helps them assess behavior quickly. They may listen for inconsistencies, signs of impairment, confusion, or nervous reactions. That is part of the job during late-night traffic enforcement, which is exactly why short, steady answers matter so much. Most women are never taught this clearly. The Fifth Amendment sounds intimidating when attorneys debate it on television, but in real, everyday life, the principle is much simpler than people think. You do not have to provide unnecessary information that could later be misunderstood, misquoted, or used against you. That does not mean arguing. It does not mean refusing lawful instructions, and it certainly does not mean becoming hostile. It simply means understanding the difference between compliance and over-explaining. That is the difference that changes the entire interaction, and that is exactly what the teacher outside Phoenix did not understand yet. What she actually needed in that moment was not aggression, not silence, not fear. She needed clarity. Calm hands resting where the officer could see them. Slow movements before reaching for documents. Simple, respectful responses. Nothing more. Because confidence during stressful moments rarely comes from being fearless. It comes from knowing exactly what to do next. I want to ask you something honestly. If flashing lights appeared behind your car tonight, would you have known your rights in that moment? Yes or no? Write it in the comments. I read every single one. But knowing your rights is only half the situation. The real difference begins with the exact words you say when the officer reaches your window. And there are 3 calm sentences that can immediately lower tension, protect your rights, and completely change how the rest of the stop unfolds. The first decisions happen before the officer ever reaches your window. If possible, pull over somewhere well lit and visible. A gas station entrance, a grocery store parking lot, a wide, safe shoulder under streetlights. Turn on the interior light at night. Place both hands where they can easily be seen, usually on the steering wheel, and avoid sudden movements inside the vehicle. That alone changes the tone of many stops immediately, and most women never realize how much those first 10 seconds matter. Now the officer approaches the driver's side window. This is where your first sentence matters more than your first explanation. Calm, simple, predictable. Good evening, officer. My license and registration are in my bag. I'm going to reach for them now. Notice what that sentence accomplishes. You explain the movement before making it. Officers are trained to watch hands carefully during nighttime stops. Slow, clear communication lowers tension for everyone involved. Calm, confident, completely legal. Now compare that to what many nervous drivers instinctively do instead, digging through purses suddenly, reaching under seats without explanation, talking rapidly while searching for insurance cards. Even completely innocent behavior can create uncertainty very quickly during a late-night stop, and that uncertainty changes the interaction fast. If broader questions begin, this is where clarity becomes extremely important. A respectful sentence can protect your rights without creating confrontation. I'd prefer not to answer questions beyond what's required. Short, calm, neutral. No attitude, no argument, no hostility, just clarity. And if the interaction starts drifting into territory that feels unnecessarily personal or uncomfortable, another calm sentence matters. I would feel more comfortable if this interaction stayed focused on the traffic stop. That sentence does something powerful psychologically. It quietly redirects the interaction without escalating it. Most women are never taught that you are allowed to sound composed without sounding submissive. That difference matters. There are also a few phrases that create problems almost immediately. I know I was speeding. I only had 1 drink. I'm nervous because I didn't do anything wrong. Each one either volunteers unnecessary information or changes the emotional tone of the stop in ways that often work against you. The goal is not silence. The goal is controlled communication. That is the difference many women discover too late. And body language matters just as much as words. A steady voice, slow movements, neutral expression, no sarcasm, no defensive tone. Especially for women who worry about being seen as difficult, this is incredibly important to understand. Calm confidence usually communicates far more effectively than nervous friendliness ever will. After the stop ends, documentation matters too. Mentally note the officer's badge number and patrol car number if visible. Save dashcam footage if you have it. Write down the details as soon as possible afterward while your memory is still fresh, especially if anything unusual happened during the interaction. Because memory changes quickly after stress. And this is the moment many women feel an emotional shift for the very first time. They realize they do not have to perform panic, over-explanation, or forced friendliness in order to stay respectful and protected at the same time. That realization changes how women drive alone at night afterward. Everything I explained today, including printable traffic stop scripts, glove box checklists, and ready-to-use response templates for situations exactly like this, is included in the guide linked below the video. And once you see what happened to two women in nearly identical nighttime stops, the difference these small phrases make becomes impossible to ignore. The elementary school teacher outside Phoenix eventually drove home that night, but the traffic stop stayed with her long after the flashing lights disappeared in the mirror. Because she nervously admitted she might have been speeding and kept trying to explain herself, the interaction slowly expanded. More questions, more conversation, more pressure to keep talking. And somewhere in the middle of it, she stopped feeling certain about where the boundaries even were anymore. Nothing dramatic happened, and that is important to understand. For many women, the real cost is much quieter than people imagine. It is the embarrassment afterward. The anxiety replaying every sentence during the drive home, wondering if you sounded suspicious, wondering if you accidentally made things worse, feeling like control slowly slipped away without even realizing it while it was happening. That emotional aftermath stays with women far longer than the traffic stop itself. For days afterward, she replayed the conversation in her head every morning driving back to school. Red lights, coffee in the cup holder, kids running across the crosswalk outside campus. And still, she kept hearing herself apologizing too quickly, explaining too much, talking simply because she was nervous. Then something changed for her. Later, after speaking with someone who understood nighttime traffic stop procedures better, she learned something that genuinely surprised her. Many of the questions that extended the interaction were questions she had not actually been required to answer in the first place. That realization stayed with her, because suddenly she understood the difference between being respectful and surrendering control of the interaction entirely. And once she understood that difference, her entire mindset changed. Now compare that with another woman in an almost identical situation. 42 years old, a nurse outside Dallas. Just after midnight, she leaves a long hospital shift and sees flashing lights appear behind her on a dark roadway. But before that night ever happened, she had already mentally prepared herself for the situation. That changes everything. Interior lights on, hands visible on the wheel, registration ready before reaching for it, slow movements, steady breathing. When the officer approaches the window, her tone remains respectful and calm. No nervous apologies, no guessing about what she might have done wrong, no volunteering details about patience, exhaustion, relationships, or where she had spent the evening. The officer asks a few routine questions. She answers briefly, clearly, calmly, and because she never unintentionally expanded the interaction herself, the stop remains focused on the original reason she was pulled over. A few minutes later, the officer returns her documents. The stop is over, and the emotional difference afterward is enormous. The teacher outside Phoenix drove away replaying every moment in her head, wondering if she had mishandled the situation without realizing it. The nurse outside Dallas drove away calm, steady, and fully aware that she had handled the interaction respectfully, without giving up control of it. That is the difference knowledge creates. Not aggression, not confrontation, not hostility toward law enforcement, just preparation, quiet confidence, the kind that allows a woman alone at night to stay calm under pressure because she already knows exactly what to say, exactly what not to say, and exactly how to carry herself through the interaction. And once women learn that difference, situations that once felt intimidating start feeling manageable instead. There is one more practical step many women are never told about. If you feel unsafe stopping immediately at night, you can slow down, turn on your hazard lights, and continue carefully toward a well-lit public area before fully stopping. A gas station, a busy parking lot, a visible roadside area with other people nearby. For many women, that is a far safer environment for a nighttime traffic stop than a dark, isolated shoulder outside the city. And that matters emotionally more than most people realize. Many women feel enormous pressure to make perfect decisions instantly during stressful moments. Your heart starts racing. Your thoughts scatter. You worry about doing the wrong thing, sounding disrespectful, or making the situation worse accidentally. But preparation changes that completely, because when you already know the procedure ahead of time, panic usually turns into calm focus. That is the deeper lesson underneath everything we covered today. Confidence during difficult moments rarely comes from being fearless. It usually comes from knowing a few simple steps ahead of time and understanding that you are allowed to stay calm, respectful, and clear all at once. That changes how a woman experiences these situations emotionally. And one small habit helps more than most people expect. Keep a simple traffic stop envelope inside your vehicle. Registration, insurance information, emergency contacts, a pen. If possible, keep everything together in one easy-to-reach location. That one habit alone can dramatically reduce frantic searching and lower stress immediately during nighttime stops. Calm, organized, predictable. That is exactly what protects you best. Everything we covered today, including printable traffic stop scripts, exact legal phrases, documentation checklists, glove box preparation guides, and more than 100 practical protection tips for real-life situations women face every day, is included in our guide, Know Your Rights. You'll find it linked in the description and in the first comment below this video. If this kind of calm, practical guidance helps you feel more prepared and protected, stay with us for more real-world advice like this. Because the moment you understand both your rights and your words, a situation that once felt intimidating becomes something you can handle calmly, clearly, and confidently.